Welcome to Talks Without Borders. Today we are talking about living in Germany and in Serbia. Today we will meet Dalijom Parisi Štiks, who has Italian and German origins, but is currently living and working in Belgrade. And we will meet Nevenom Mitić, who is Serbian but is currently living in Berlin. Stay with us for the next 20 minutes and hear their stories. Welcome to Talks Without Borders. Today we are talking with Dalijom Parisi Štiks and Nevenom Mitić. Nevena, Dalia, thank you for participating and hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
So we decided to talk to you because you have both interesting stories, very interesting stories, and Dalia is currently living in Belgrade and Nevena is currently living in Berlin. So can you tell us more about the stories of Nevena, how you came to Berlin because you're from Serbia, and Dalia, you have a very interesting story of where you've lived before, living now here in Belgrade. So who would like to start first?
I can start, I guess, since you mentioned me first. So I'm Nevena, I'm 30 years old, currently living in Berlin. I was born and raised in Belgrade and moved to Berlin when I was 14 years old. I was privileged enough, I would say, to be able to move to Berlin with my mother at the time, who worked as an embassy employee in Berlin. And then I went to German school and moved back and forth between Berlin and Belgrade quite a lot, like at least 3 or 4 times. So that was pretty intense as a teenager and as a young adult later. And now I'm back in Berlin and I finished my degree in Frankfurt-Oder, which is in Brandenburg, and work as a public relations worker at an NGO, which is a counseling service for people who have experienced racist attacks. And also pretty late in my life, and also due to like the turbulent story of me moving back and forth, I discovered also music to be a passion of mine, and got into first DJing and then afterwards musical production. So I'm also an electronic music producer, and I also co-own a music label here in Berlin with a couple of friends.
Yeah, we'll talk more about this. This is very exciting, even the PR part, but the music part as well. Dalia, what about you?
So it's actually interesting because also my childhood was kind of a mess, I would say. We moved around a lot and stuff. But maybe I start from the beginning. Yes, I am from South Tyrol. That's like the northern part of Italy, where the mountains are. And also there it is a little bit complicated, I would say, because you grow up as a bilingual, so you grow up with 2 languages and also 2 identities, I would say, the German and the Italian one. And at home with my mother, so my mother language is Italian, but my father is from Munich, and so he's also he's German. So yes, I would say I'm half Italian, half German. And I came to Munich, I think, with 17, and I graduated there, and then I moved to Augsburg, which is a small city near to Munich, where I did my bachelor degree in the pedagogy of art. And also there I discovered my love to art, to culture, to this culture scene, I would say. And there I also started to work as a visual artist, and I founded our female artist collective, and I had some exhibitions and stuff. And after that, I started my master degree in cultural management and gender studies. And now, as you said, I am in Belgrade, Serbia, as I take part of this UNESCO volunteering program, I would say. And I work at the cultural department of the Goethe Institute for 6 months. And I am here in Belgrade since almost 3 months now. So I'm staying until February, and also this time is very intense, but very, very interesting.
How would you describe living in Belgrade from your perspective?
Oh, so I enjoy it a lot, I really have to say. I have to admit that it was quite an accident almost that I came here to Belgrade. I didn't know so much about the city or the country, Serbia in general, but I am very positively surprised. I really, really, really like it. It's very, the city is very energetic. There's so much stuff going on, and especially like as I said, I work at the Goethe Institute, so also there we organize a lot of exhibitions, concerts, theater plays, and it is part of my work and also stay here and experience to go to those events and stuff. So it's very, very nice for me. But I also have to say, speaking about privilege that Nevena mentioned, that of course I live now here in Belgrade, but I would say that I'm more like a long-term visitor here, because I am in a very, very privileged position now here, and I'm also like a little bit in a bubble. Like I feel like if you really, really live here and maybe don't fit into this structural system, or in general in this system, like, I don't know, you don't have so much money, or you're not healthy, or heterosexual, heteronormative, or whatsoever. So I feel like the system works a little bit against you. So when I say, yes, I love it here in Belgrade, I love it here in Serbia, people people often respond, oh, that's so nice, they're happy for me, but they wish they could say like the same thing. And yes, I mean, I think that is really a thing that it really depends in which position you are, to summarize it up.
Yeah, before we move to Berlin, can you just tell us the story of how you came here? Because you said that it was type of an accident that you wound up here.
Yes, so I started my master's degree in cultural management, and I always was very interested in the work that the Goethe Institute does. So I feel like that a lot of people know the Goethe Institute from its language department and the library and stuff, but actually they are very, very active in the culture scene too. So I was very interested in that. And it was, I think, 1 year ago during winter time and during the second lockdown, I was a little bit, depressed, I would say, and I like really felt the urge to move out of my comfort zone, to experience something new. And then I did some research, and I found this program, this volunteering program from the UNESCO Commission called Kulturweit, and I just tried, and it happened by chance, and it worked, and I came here because I thought, why not? And it was really the best decision ever.
Yeah, the lockdown was time for reflecting for a lot of people and making changes like these. So, Nevena, did you make any grand changes during lockdown?
Well, yes. Actually, I kind of started producing much more during lockdown. So before that, I had much less time, of course. And Berlin is a big city, and it has a lot to offer. It's also full with nightclubs and like the cultural possibilities in the scene, galleries, museums, etc. It can be very overwhelming to live in such a big city like Berlin. So lockdown actually, kind of made it possible for me to like have more time to develop my craft because, just due to having more time. And I was also very privileged. Again, I was super lucky to find a job actually middle in lockdown, like while Corona was going on in the first year still. I was very anxious about finding work because of my residency permit in Germany. Although I've lived here for so long, it's been like a back and forth thing and it was never settled. And I was also here as a foreign student. And afterwards I had like a couple of months time to find a steady job, which I then did, luckily. And now I'm still working at the same NGO and trying to find time to balance like being creative and still working a full-time job, which can also be very challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And how would you describe living in Berlin? We've heard Dali's experience of living in Belgrade. How is it for you to live in Berlin?
Well, Berlin is kind of my second home, or maybe even my first home, because I've lived here for so long now, and I have like a wide circle of friends and people who I consider to be my family. It's of course difficult not to have my family actually here, like the close circle, because just this kind of form of support and seeing them on a regular basis is just not possible. So it can be a bit lonely from that side. So I visit Serbia and my family at least once a year. But especially during Corona, it was super difficult because I couldn't travel so freely before getting the vaccine. And I haven't seen them for over a year. And then I noticed how much I also missed going back home. But generally Berlin is just home for me. It's very open. It's kind of different, I would say, than Belgrade in terms of it's safer for queer people, for example. There are a lot more possibilities as a creative, for example. There are much more funding opportunities for projects, for art projects, for creative projects. So this is like kind of a much better situation to live in Berlin than I would say it is in Belgrade. I think people who are creative in Belgrade really struggle a lot to do it, not just as a hobby, but like to do it like as a full occupation. So
as a proper job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how would you explain your experience of moving abroad now? And Nevenom, you mentioned something very interesting, that are the papers and all the administrative issues that you have to encounter when you go somewhere abroad and you want to stay somewhere. So can you just maybe expand, how was it for you and for maybe people that you know that are from abroad and living in Berlin and in Germany? This process, is it hard or not? And Dalia, how was your process with coming here? Was it difficult in any way? Do you have any obligations, restrictions, or how is it in general?
I can just expand to what I said earlier. So in Germany, you need to live and work and like sort of pay taxes for a regulated amount of time before you are able to get a permanent residency. So I think it's about 5 years. And since I was moving back and forth between two countries, I haven't been here during a 5 period of time where I was able to like contribute to the country, you would say, because of course the German system doesn't want people who migrate to the country to get sort of these social benefits, like in form of like financial support, for example, so that you definitely have to have a steady income and to pay taxes, etc. So if you don't come from very privileged backgrounds and already have financial stability, for example, it can be difficult. I mean, like I said, I was pretty lucky to find a job, I guess, especially during Corona times. And now I'm kind of in the process. I hope next year I will get my permanent residency. And this time is kind of also a tricky situation to be in, because you're kind of working somewhere and it somehow feels like you're more or less trapped. I mean, I'm happy where I work, but it's still, I don't have this sort of freedom to say, okay, maybe I want to reorientate myself and look for something else. So it can be difficult, but generally it's possible, it's manageable. But yeah, it's Germany, you need to speak the language, you need to have people, I guess, who can support you, local people who can help you find the loopholes, if it's necessary, but it's possible.
Okay, thank you for sharing this. And Dalia, how was your experience?
Yeah, so I think my experience is a little bit different from Nevena's ones, because as I said before, I don't stay here long term. I don't live really here. I visit. I stay here as a visitor, I would say, for 6 months, and I have this financial support, and I came here because I have this work here at the Goethe Institute and stuff. So I just don't. It's a little bit different, I would say, my situation. And for me, it is, of course, very, very exciting. I don't speak the language or any Slavic language. So for me, at the beginning, it was like so hard to understand something. But of course, Belgrade is a very international city. So English is totally fine. A lot of people speak English, especially the younger generation. And at the Goethe Institute, we speak German because it's a German institution. So that's also great for me. And the people here are very open, very nice, very warm. So it was very a nice experience, even though, of course, sometimes I feel a little bit lost or confused. It's another system. Everything works in a different way. Like, I don't know, for example, paying the bills at the post office, or the traffic transports here, the public traffic transports work different. Or I don't know, or they don't work at all. Yes, exactly. So of course, also for me, it's sometimes challenging, I would say, but in a very different way than Nevena explained.
Yeah. Could you maybe to try to sum it up, say what are your favorite things for Nevena living in Berlin, and your least favorite thing living in Berlin, and for Dalia, your favorite thing living in Belgrade?
Should I start again?
Yeah,
I can.
you can.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. I, of course, have a love-hate relationship with Germany, but with Serbia as well, I guess. There are just aspects that are great and aspects that are not so great about any country. But living in Germany has given me a lot of great possibilities, actually. So the positive things are, of course, the educational system. I feel like I have definitely benefited from the educational system, although it is also very flawed and there is a lot of critique towards it. But generally, I would say it's better than in Serbia. And I think like also having this diploma, I study social sciences and political sciences, which I think it's great to have just a German diploma, of course. And other things are also like being able to work here, to find a job and make a decent living and a normal wage is, I think, something that's not guaranteed in Serbia, no matter how high the qualification of the people is or how experienced they are in their fields. It's definitely more difficult to be independent in Serbia than it is here. So I'm very happy to have this opportunity. But also, like, living here has generally widened my horizon a lot because my circle of people is very diverse. I have friends from all different parts of the whole world, and I constantly continue learning about also other cultures, but also the intersection of different cultures. I'm also a queer person, so living here is much more freeing for me than it would probably be in Serbia. I don't quite know because I don't live there, but that's at least my assumption from the times that I've spent there. So these are all aspects that are that I really like about Germany. And of course, what I don't like in Germany is like the experience I make with discrimination and also some racist microaggressions that I experience here, and that kind of follow me everywhere. Like even like in interpersonal relationships with people, always like this feeling of not really being seen as quite part of the German society. I'm mostly seen as a foreigner or as just somebody who can't be German or somebody that's from somewhere else. So it's kind of this, it can be difficult at times, but also like the systemic side of that when it comes to getting an own apartment. So people see, okay, she has another passport, or on the passport it says that the residency is limited until a certain period of time. It makes it more difficult to get an apartment. And all these kinds of things, I would say, are like my negative experiences here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nevena. Dalia?
So I start with the positive things, with the good things. So as I said, Belgrade is a very international city, and a lot of stuff happens here. So for me, it's really like going from one event to another. So for me, obviously, it's very, very exciting. Sometimes also a little bit exhausting, but mainly exciting. And what I really like is that the people here are very open-minded, very warm, and also a little bit like I feel, I don't know why, or I know why, but I don't know where exactly or something, but I feel like this rebellious thing here, like the people have, I don't know, like a rebellious mind, and do this with a lot of humor at the same time. And as I said, I came here and didn't know that much about, politics or environmental problems or historical events that much, which I'm so happy now that I'm learning more and more. And I really like this process. And which brings me maybe to a negative part is that actually the main things I don't like here are regarding structural political topics, I would say, like for example the air pollution or the environmental pollution, or as I said before, that the system or the structure doesn't allow maybe free sexuality, free opinions or something like that. So it's really regarding those structures, political structures, I would say.
Yeah. Dalia, thank you for sharing. And thank you both for participating in another episode of Talks Without Borders. In the next episode, we will talk more and compare more the two countries. But again, I want to thank you for sharing your experience, and it was really nice getting to know you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, thank you.
See you next time in another episode of Talks Without Borders.